All right. Hello, this is Christopher Fish, and this is going to be my Unit 1 application assignment. For this assignment, I'm going over the two pieces that we were assigned to watch and read. The first piece being The Tale of Two Schools, a story about two high schools that are located in New York and in the same borough, and how they're worlds apart. And the second is Notes from the Field, performed by Anna DeVries Smith. Sorry, I had to look at my notes to try to pronounce that. So Tale of Two Schools is about, as I said, two high schools in the New York borough, which started an experiment before where they would send letters to each other to get to know each other. Along with, as they've gotten closer, they would do excursions to each other's schools, but just the two schools in general. I think it's Fieldston and, Lord, sorry, I kind of forgot the other name. It's blanking on it. University Heights. Fieldston and University Heights. They're both in worlds apart, and one is like the more poor end, while the other one, it's where the rich go to send their kids to go to school. I think like when I saw it, the tuition was like $43,000, which just blew my mind. But yeah, and then they went on to this empathetic experiment where they would go to each other, or they would tell each other stories from both sides, and they would act out these stories from the other person's point of view, but not from the other, like acting from the characters from which they're trying to act as. The other piece that we looked up, Notes from the Field, I watched the documentary twice. It's kind of it's an interesting piece. It's kind of, the performer Anna DeVries Smith really did a number, not like a bad number, but like she really got into each and every single role of what she had to. It was kind of, she would present one argument, and then she would present the other side of the argument, but she was acting as the people that she interviewed. So there was, from what I understand, is like she just saw that she went around and interviewed 200 people from particular incidents, such as like this kid was like found and he was arrested, but as he was being arrested, they broke his leg and they tied him up and tied him into the back of a van. And during the van ride, it's said that he broke his spine, which resulted in his death. And that's how the whole story begins. So watching that, I was like, oh, okay, we're in for one of these. But yeah, she just gets into every interview and every role, and she tells a whole story throughout. So the second step of the diet formula, which we're supposed to be following, as a audience member, reading and watching both of these, the first one, A Tale of Two Stories, it kind of felt off to me. I know, like, I think it was just because they were close, but it was kind of hard for me to understand the logic between a private school, like a wealthy private school, because I can't even imagine like paying nearly like $45,000 to send a kid to the school. That seems pretty ridiculous compared to like another school where it's like the kids are just freaking in poverty. And it was kind of hard for me to empathize with the characters from the richer school. It was hard for me to empathize with the kids from the poorer schools, because they'd be telling stories about how they're worried about they couldn't make ends meet, or how how they're just having struggles in life, and then the rich kids would also talk about their own struggles, and it was just kind of hard for me to, as an audience member, to feel for the rich kids and then feel for the poor kids. I think it was just because, like, in my life, I've always been in the middle of the road. Like I say, I think I was more like upper middle class when I was growing up. And I was just thinking back to my high school, and I was like, comparing my high school to the kids who were public school in New York, I was like, that seems more like realistic than the whole massive school up like 43 grand up in the same bureau. But I think that was kind of the point. But I'll explain that later in the eval. So as an audience member, it was kind of hard to understand that point. And I think I only understood it more after watching the documentary. Well, not documentary, but the notes from the field, and then rereading the article. And if that makes sense, I guess seeing her talk about things that made it kind of easier to empathize with the characters from Tales from Two Schools. And Notes from the Field, that one was really hard to watch twice in a row. It was more like the first time, it was just kind of getting over the shock value, because it was a whole different type of performance. Like, she was like acting out each character, and that kind of threw me for a loop, and it kind of made it hard for me to follow everything what she was saying. But yeah, and then the second time around, I got a little bit more. I was able to follow it a little bit more, and I noticed the slight nuances between how she would present one argument, and then I'm like, okay, but how does it, like, what do you mean, like, how is it, like, if you have bad kids, what about the teachers? How about how they feel? And then she went on to show teachers or like correctional officers, and I was like, oh, okay. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. And then to evaluate effective or not, I think both performances were effective in their own way. I'm not sure about Tales of Two Schools. I feel like that one would have been more effective if they used like different examples. I just feel like they're just so far apart that it made it really hard for me to empathize with the really rich characters. So, but that might have been one of the reasons why they did it, is because, like, I don't know, I have to leave that to your eyes and get back. But so I would say for Tale of Two Schools, not really. But for Notes from the Field, I think she does such a wide range of interviews and gets such a wide amount of characters that's kind of hard not for it to be effective. Like, I feel like it gives off enough of a presence for the issue, which is, I think, because like it kind of changed up at the end and focused more on the civil rights matter part, but it seemed like they were kind of pushing the matter that they need to change the education system so that it will make it more possible for like underfranchised or young Black Americans that are stuck in like bad situations or like can't get out of poverty or anything could move up in life and like actually be able to get through and not be like treated like crap going through the education system or prison to school or school to prison pipeline, as it felt like throughout the whole thing. And going through to theorize and connecting for the performance and audience is like, I feel like the Tale from Two Schools didn't do the whole, like, I didn't feel like there were a lot of stakes. Like, I understood that these kids were coming to the school, and like both groups are working to tell each other's story, but I don't think there was any like dialogic engagement, if that's the word. Like, I understood, like, yeah, they were trying to step into each other's shoes, but I was wondering, like, if anything, I would have liked to know more about what happened to the students afterwards. Like, was there any real differences? Because it made me wonder about how each group was doing. And then, and DeVry Smith's performance, yeah, she just killed it in a lot of regards. She, like, the way she would embody the characters and their mannerisms and how they walked and talked, really impressed me in the regards. I didn't really catch it the first time. I think it's what kind of threw me off the first time, is I couldn't separate what was being told and what she was doing with the characters, so I was kind of just in the middle trying to figure everything out. But the second time watching through, it made a lot more sense, and I could understand. Like, that's a really emphatic way of doing it, because she's going straight from their mouth. It's whatever they say, she's putting out there, and she's acting exactly like them, and how she would act as a character. So between both of them, I think both of them have the same message, where it's like they need to change the school system, try to work on the school to prison pipeline, and like they gotta make it to where like schools actually care about kids, I guess, in that regards. And I think the first one, Tales of Two Schools, I think it sets the tone for it, because it's like, look at these two different schools, and they're so close apart, so close together, but they have so many different things that keep them apart. While Nose from the Field is just a deep talking about each interview, and it giving you a whole different side of the issue from every different direction. It was almost hard for me to keep up at some points, because I was like, oh, the one scene where it showed this one senior filming like a police officer tackle a girl out of her desk, and I was like, oh, okay. And like the only reason she got arrested was because she said something in regards of, why are you doing this, or what is the reason? Stop her, or something along that line. And I thought that was pretty messed up, and it made me think. And I was like, okay, but maybe the students are bad. And right after I said that, I went on to two teachers, and I was like, okay, well, that explains. It's like running a prison, but at the same time, there's like no empathy into the school system. All right, and that's about it. Have a good day.